Thank you. I am a 62-year-old widow. I live in Humanity, a small town in Hungary near the Austrian border. About 6% of Humanity population is Jewish. It is July 1944. Hungary has joined with Nazi Germany in the war. There have been a number of awful laws passed which make it very difficult to be Jewish. However, I hear from my friends that the Nazis suffered a major defeat in their attack against the Soviet Union and Stalingrad. My friends believe it's the beginning of the end of the Nazi regime and that the war will end soon. I have been ordered to go to the town square with a small suitcase with my important belongings. I have heard terrible rumors about the Nazi treatment of Jews at concentration camps in Poland, but those rumors cannot be true. No one would treat a fellow human being like that. I'm now in the town square. We've been ordered to walk to the train station. We are surrounded by armed guards and vicious dogs. My bag has been taken from me, and I'm being forced into a boxcar with many of my friends and neighbors. There must be more than 100 of us in this car. There's not enough room to sit. We're packed like sardines. The train has started to move. It's hard to breathe in here. I think I may pass out. We have been in this boxcar for 7 days. There's no food or water. 20 or 30 of the people in the boxcar have died. We have now stopped in a huge camp and are being forced out of the boxcar. I've been required to walk by a table with a Nazi officer. He has instructed me to join a line of old men and women and young children. Younger men and women have been instructed to form another line. We are being marched to a contract building, and I have been told to take off our clothes so we can take a shower. We have been forced into a small room with shower heads. There is no water, just an awful gas. This is the story of my grandmother, as I imagined it. She was deported to Auschwitz in July 1944. I hope she died quickly and did not suffer for a long time. She joined more than 40 of my family members and 6 million other Jews and 5 million others who were murdered by the Nazis. The museum is a memorial to them and a beacon of light to teach all of us what can happen when hatred goes rampant and the world does not take action to stop it. I am lucky. My father came to this country in 1923 to join his brother and went back to Hungary in 1930 to marry my mother. If they stayed in Hungary, they would have been deported with my grandmother. As a 4-year-old in 1944, my life expectancy would have been less than 30 minutes in Auschwitz. Instead, I grew up in Tyler, Texas, where my parents had a small women's clothing and piece goods store. It was a very pleasant childhood. It was a white and black community that was totally segregated. I was largely oblivious to the terrible discrimination against the black community. I was more focused on dating my first girlfriend. It was not love at first sight. I did not decide I wanted to marry her until our second date. But even in Tyler, they frown on 14-year-olds getting married. I ultimately went to the University of Texas in Austin. Jewish kids went through a separate fraternity and sorority rush process than all the other students. We really didn't think much about it. If they did that today, our protests would have shut the school down. If there were any Black or Hispanic students at the university, I did not see them. I went to law school at Texas and got married after the first year of law school. I had learned of the anti-Semitic practices of the major Houston law firms. They were the only large law firms in the state, and it had a long history of refusing to hire Jews. It wasn't a great time for women or minorities either. Of my class of 500 law students, there were 5 women and 2 African Americans. To my knowledge, there were no women or Black lawyers in any firm of 10 or more lawyers in the entire state. In our graduation class, 3 of the top 5 students and the top 3 officers of the law review were Jewish. Since we knew we would not be hired by the Houston big firms, we went to school interviews with a few loaded questions. I asked one Houston interviewer why they didn't hire Jews. He responded that he didn't stay with the firm. Since they had not hired any Jews, I found it difficult to understand how they knew they would not stay. It turned out to my benefit, since I avoided a horrible life in Houston. And ended up with a rewarding legal career for the last 58 years with a great group of lawyers in Dallas. And many of them are here today. However, the story does not end there. 2 wonderful upstanders finally put an end to the discriminatory practices of the major Houston firms. The year after the 3 of us graduated, Paige Keaton, the dean of the law school, and Judge Brown, the senior Texas judge of the Fifth Circuit, summoned the major Houston law firms to a meeting. Dean Keaton informed the leaders of those firms that they would no longer be permitted to recruit at Texas if they did not hire its Jewish students. My 2 classmates took jobs with a major Houston firm the next year. I got an inquiry but passed, since I already had a great job in Dallas. Discriminatory practices can be stopped if good people stand up and insist that they be stopped. Dallas was not perfect on the discrimination rating system. Its schools were totally segregated and unequal. Various clubs discriminated against women, minorities, and Jews. Slowly, these barriers have been removed, but still much remains to be done. I joined the museum board 28 years ago when I was young, when it was in the basement of the Jewish Community Center. The museum leadership had the dream to build a new, larger facility to reach more of our community. We inherited our incredible CEO, Mary Pat Higgins, in January 2013. I agree with that. We wouldn't have this museum without her, and started the capital campaign after she had time to get her feet on the ground the following February. We met with potential donors and discussed the importance of building a new museum and the impact it would have on students' attitude, tolerance, and behavior. We opened our new museum in 2019, the realization of that long-awaited dream. The number of visitors who have either participated in visits to the museum, accessed programs remotely, or engaged in activities in intensive school programs has grown from the 45,000 level in the JCC to over 210,000 this year. Now that the museum and the school systems are slowly recovering from the impacts of COVID, we can look forward to a greater impact on our students and our community. About 9 years ago, I was inspired to start taking asylum cases for immigrants fleeing violence in Central America. I am a business lawyer who has never tried a case and knows absolutely nothing about immigration law. But I figured that any lawyer who represents an asylum applicant is better than no lawyer. With my secretary, my wonderful secretary of more than 25 years, Humanity Honoree, who's here tonight, we represented women and children who are fleeing from abusive marital relationships and gang violence. With the able assistance of wonderful lawyers from my law firm, we tried 4 cases with favorable results and secured asylum or legal status for 12 women and children. We also recruited other lawyers in my firm and in other firms who have also rescued immigrants fleeing violence. Just as my parents left Europe for a better life, these asylum applicants fled their homes to save themselves and their children. I would have done the same thing if I had been in a similar circumstance. I want to thank the museum's incredible staff for all they've done to make this event successful. The museum relies on this event as its principal fundraiser to support its important mission. I thank our wonderful chairs, Lynn and Gil and Linda and Ken, and the members of the honorary and host committees and the large number of you who have made generous contributions to support the museum. For those of you who have not had that opportunity, we would be delighted if you would scan the QR codes at your table to make your donation. There are armed guards outside to prevent you from leaving, unless you can prove you've contributed. As many of you know, I had a little health issue last December while eating a not very good hamburger at Texas Stadium before the start of the Cowboy game. My aorta sprang a leak and I passed out. The Fort Worth surgeon contacted by the emergency room doctor said I would not likely survive and refused to take my case. I suspect he concluded that the world would be a better place with one less Dalasite. Fortunately, a fine Plano surgeon saved the day for me. The most ferocious patient advocate came to my aid with the excellent assistance of my children. My first and only girlfriend and wife of 60 years nursed me back to health. She is wonderful, but please don't tell her I said so. My only meaningful contribution to this community is the Schoenbrun rule. Charitable events must end by 9 p.m. So thank you again for your wonderful support of the museum. Thank you.
Go home.